Hello friends and welcome to another plushie tutorial. Today I'm making a plushie from the game Cult of the Lamb, so let's get started. First off, I'm going to embroider the face. Now I embroidered my face here and I'm going to have the files available. There will also be a template for the eyes if you want to applique them or some other method. And if you embroider the face, I'll just use this template to make sure I get the placement of the head right and centered. The back head pieces will be sewn right sides together. Also the body pieces, so the darts on the bottom. With the arms and legs, I'm just going to trace one side of the fabric with the actual pattern, and then I'm going to put that onto a bigger piece of fabric and sew them together, leaving the tops open. And I'll do the same thing with the ears and the horns. Now to snip snip. Now I sewed the body darts, so I'm just cutting those. And that's how it looks like. And what I'm gonna do now is turn each of the limbs right side out using these hemostats. And then I'll stuff each of those and just leave a little bit of empty space near the top. What I'm gonna do now is place each of the limbs in between each body piece. So there are little lines marked on the body, and that's gonna show you where you can place each arm and each leg so that they'll be even on both sides. So I'll just pin those limbs in place and then sew all around, leaving the top of the body open. And now here is the finished body, and I'm just gonna stuff that now. Cutting out the ears and the horns so that I can move on to the head. When I turn the ears right side out, I fold it over in half and then stitch it in place. Now the headpiece has two darts, one on the top and one on the bottom, so I cut those after I sewed them. That's the front of the head. And so a similar thing with the head as with the body, but this time I'm putting the ears and the horns in place. And I did stuff the horns a little bit so that they're a little three-dimensional sticking out of the head. So again, there's little lines drawn, and that's where you can place the horns and the ears on each side. So if you pin the ears and the horns in place, and then you can take the back of the head, align it together, and sew it all around, leaving the bottom open this time. And here's my head. I've already stuffed it. Now I'm just going to work on the horn, and I'm going to pick the seams a little bit, pick the little fur out of the seams so it looks nicer. And I'm going to just start my knot from the bottom of the horn. Oops, it wasn't knotted. I'll just have to knot that real quick. There we go. Start from the bottom, and then I'm going to have my needle go all the way around the horn and just doing tiny stitches in the middle so that the thread stays in place. Now if you pull the thread a little bit, that should make a bit of an indent so that it looks more like a horn. And I'll do the same on the other side. Now we can attach the body and the head together, and I'm going to do this using a ladder stitch. And this material is pretty slippery, so I'm gonna go around the head twice with my ladder stitch. There he is so far. He's naked, but he's so cute. Next, I'm moving on to his little crown, cult crown thing. I'm gonna put the little red demon eye thing as an applique, so I cut out the red eye with fleece, placed it on top of the black, and just went around it with a whip stitch. And then a little bit of hand embroidery for the eye in the middle. And once again, an easy way to do this is to just take a larger piece of black fabric, place the crown with the eye on it on top with the right sides together. Place your paper pattern piece on top of that and sew around the paper pattern piece, leaving the bottom open. So I went ahead and sewed that, and I'm going to cut it and turn it right side out, and I'll stuff it a little bit as well. Now onto the cloak. I just did the white stripe on my embroidery machine, but if you don't have a machine, you can do a couple other methods. You could paint it, you could also applique a piece of white fabric on it, you could do iron transfer, or even a satin stitch on your regular sewing machine. And now these are the two front pieces of the cloak, and just sew these right at the shoulder. And I'm putting the crown now on top of the head, also stitching that down with a ladder stitch. Now for the bell, I did make an embroidery file for this as well, also included. And it's like an in the hoop bell, so you can just let the machine do all the stitching, and then I cut a little hole on the back, turn it right side out. And also put some stuffing in there. Now the reason I did an embroidered bell here is because I couldn't really find any big bells. Like, I went to my craft store and all I found were these really tiny ones. And like, look how small these are. That's definitely not fit for a cult leader. So instead though, I think I'm just gonna put this tiny bell into my embroidered bell so that it at least still makes a little bit of a chime. Now moving back to the cloak, now that you have the two shoulder sides sewn, I'm gonna sew this black strip on. So first I'm gonna fold it in half and then align it all across the neckline of the cloak. So just pin it in place and sew straight across with the right sides facing together. And once you have that sewn, you can fold the cloak in half with the right sides facing together again, and just sew down the center of the cloak. Now I'll take my bell and just attach it right to the front here. And I'm gonna sew all the way around it because I have the little hole in the back. I don't want the stuffing to fall out. And finally he can have some clothes on. Just get this little cloak over his body. And there he is. It's the little lamb cult leader. Isn't he cute? So the pattern and the embroidery files are available, and I'll link them in the description under this video. It's a Ko-fi link. The pattern is free, but you can throw a tip if you want. I would really appreciate that. And I hope this video was helpful or you learned something new. And with that, I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye!